Hello and welcome to Caldwell County Today. I'm Paige Counts, Public Information Officer for Caldwell County. Joining me today is John Boyd and Jennifer Bowman with the Guardian Ad Litem program. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Let's start by just telling us what Guardian Ad Litem is.
So the Guardian Ad Litem office is a program that works with children who are court involved because of abuse or neglect, and so they are petitioned by the Department of Social Services because there are concerns about their particular family. And so our office is appointed to be their advocate, their court liaison, and to make sure that the court knows about how they're doing, if there are any needs that they have, and to make recommendations about what's in their best interest. And we work with kids who are from ages birth until their 18th birthdays.
And before we went on air, we were talking a little bit about how COVID had impacted your work. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
COVID's has kind of changed our entire way of doing business in the sense that we do pretty much virtual contact now. We don't have in-person contact as much. Some of our volunteers are now able to do so, but they weren't able to do it as well. So COVID kind of has changed the way that we do business, and some of it's been good, some of it's been a little challenging. So,
you mentioned volunteers. Your program relies heavily on volunteer support. Talk to me about what your volunteers do.
So when we are assigned a case, our goal is to have every child represented by a volunteer. Our program is based on volunteers. John and I are program supervisors, so we work with those volunteers in training and mentoring and helping them as they're working their case. But we know that those volunteers can dedicate that time that's needed to work with those children and families and make those appropriate recommendations. Like I said, our goal is to have every child be represented by a volunteer. Right now, not only in our county, but our district, which covers Caldwell, Burke, and Catawba, we all are in need of volunteers. We have been fortunate, while COVID has been going on, that we've been able to continue our training through a virtual platform. So that has been nice that we've continued to be able to train and swear in our volunteers. But we are still in need. We have about 80 children who still need volunteers to advocate for them. When there's not a volunteer, John and I step in and do what we can, but we know that one-on-one relationship with that volunteer is vital for each of our kids.
Who makes a good volunteer for your program?
anybody that has a heart for a child, and that's just the bottom line. That's as simple as I can make it. I mean, there are some requirements that we go through, obviously, you know, different things that we do from a professional standpoint, but literally, if someone just has the interest to work with a child in the community, that's the person we're looking for.
In your training, what kind of things do you go over? Because I know the court system can sometimes be a little scary for outsiders. So what do you teach your volunteers?
In our training, we allow volunteers an opportunity to learn about trauma and what it's like for a child coming out of a situation that's not ideal. We help them learn how to look at certain documents, how to read things from case files, how to interview and how to introduce themselves, what a guardian does. We train them on how to make court reports, who are the different folks who are involved in the court process. They have an opportunity to come and do some court observations so they can see how that plays out in the courtroom. And I think one of the biggest things that we're able to do for volunteers who are wanting to come in is we have a panel of current volunteers who sit down during training and really talk about their experiences. So it allows them to have some direct information from folks who are currently being volunteers about what it looks like and what that feels like. So I think that makes it an ideal, kind of an eye-opener for folks who are interested.
What's the workload or the expectation for your volunteers?
Well, what she talked about was training. That's about 30 hours. Then after the training phase is done, the start part of it is probably the most intense. It's really not intense. It's about a 6-hour to maybe an 8-hour commitment to get it started, get things where it needs to be. Then once the case is kind of through that initial phase, it's probably about 4 hours a month. The requirement is to see the child at least once a month. They could see the child more. And then that includes seeing them at schools, doctor's visits, the home, just different places, just to ensure that the child is thriving in their environment. And that's really what the focus is for the volunteer. So it's kind of, it's a big picture item, but it's one of those areas that the volunteers looking at the whole of the child, not just little bits and pieces. So.
When a volunteer is assigned to a child, how long do they follow that child?
We want them to follow that child until they reach permanence, and whatever that looks like. That could be ideally them returning home to their family, where the family has improved and shown that they can parent and take care of that child safely. It may be with custody or guardianship going to a relative, or it could be through adoption. But ideally, we want that volunteer who starts at the beginning and follows that case all the way through till that child's no longer court involved because they're in a permanent safe situation.
So really, there's no set time frame. It could be months, it could be years.
Yes.
Yes.
But in addition to needing volunteers, you have a program coming up, a campaign that really connects you with the community.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
I can. So we are participating in what we call our PBNJ, or our Peanut Butter and Jelly campaign. And this is really a way for us to give back to our communities. We did PB&J. This is a statewide program, but when you think about kids, you think about PB&J. So what we do is we collect plastic jars of peanut butter and jelly, and then we donate those back to local food banks, school backpack programs, and other agencies in the community who work with children and families who may come and need a resource. Last year, we were fortunate that we were able to donate back to Yokefellow and South Caldwell Christian Ministries, Leos, the local homeless shelter, and Baptist Children's Home, who here in our community serves the maternity home for teenage mothers and their children. So we are just here asking the community, if they are interested in making a donation, they can call our number. It's a local number there. And John or I, would be happy to talk with folks. They could bring that by. John and I could meet them there at the courthouse, which is where we're located, if they're willing to donate. And we're also fortunate that we have several community agencies and local churches who are collecting in their agencies and donating that to us so we can give back to our community.
If a church wants to get involved, or a civic group, how can they get involved?
They could call our local number here and talk with John and I. Really, we just ask folks to determine what collection dates they want to do and then coordinate with us. They can either take that donation directly to one of the local food banks. We just need to know a count because I'll turn those into our state agency. But if local churches or their different circles and organizations within the church want to do something, then they can give us a call and we can coordinate that with them.
What are the dates for this?
Well, we're going to try to wrap everything up by January is it the 19th this year?
Yes, I think that's right.
So anyway, by that date, so literally it's between now and then. So we got about a 2-month window, 2.5-month window. So it's a good time frame, and there's plenty of time. There's no, set, we're going to have it done by next week, and you got to have it collected and turned in. But we also understand that people don't want it kind of hanging out there too.
Right.
So if you want to set a parameter for, let's say, your church, and you want to have it open for 2 weeks, that's certainly appropriate. So.
And I noticed when you talk about it, you said plastic jars of peanut butter and jelly. So you're trying to avoid the glass containers in this.
And that's just so if we're picking them up and moving them, you run the risk of glass. We certainly are not going to turn anything down for
Sure.
folks who want to donate. We appreciate anything that they're willing to provide. But yes, we do try to get the plastic ones just so you don't run that risk of, breaking something in transit.
Like, nobody wants jelly all over the backseat of their car.
Right.
What makes all transitions a lot easier because, the collection, the transport, and then when you take it to the place that you're taking it to, I mean, no telling how quickly you're going to be taking it out of the vehicle or whatever, so it makes it so much easier.
Yeah. And again, I also noticed you said that people can turn it in directly to our local food bank, whether that's Yokefellow or South Caldwell Christian Ministries or Leo's or the shelter home. But you need to be informed. You just need to be told.
Yes, if they would just coordinate with our office, and we've already had a couple churches who have done that, and instead of bringing the collection to us and then us transport it, they've taken it directly. They coordinated with us ahead of time and then just let us know they had X amount of jars of peanut butter and jelly, and so we keep that tally, but they took that collection on. So we appreciate that as well.
And the other thing, as people are doing this and coordinating with you, how can they promote Guardian Ad Litem? I mean, just your program, your need for volunteers, how can they share that information?
Education is huge, and that's what we're here today for. Peanut butter and jelly collection is part of our educational part. It just brings an awareness to the table that people may or may not be involved with us in understanding of what we do. And if there's a conversation piece that takes place, literally the conversation should just entail that we work with kids in our community that have been neglected or abused, and our role is to be their voice in court. We have an attorney that's assigned in the court system. We provide that attorney with reports, and our volunteers write the reports. We check them. We do our reports and check them. And all that is a process that provides our attorney with the information of how the child is doing. So the long short of it is basically if they want to talk about our program, we're here for the children and the children that need a voice in court.
If somebody has questions about your program and getting involved, how do they find out more?
They could reach out to John or I at our office, and our local number is 828-759-3521. We're both there most days and would be happy to answer any questions. And certainly if somebody is part of an organization in the community and they would like information sent to them to share, or John and I could attend a meeting, whether that's virtually or provide information, we would be more than happy to do that.
And I notice on your poster you have a web address, volunteerforgal.org.
Yes, they could visit that website. It gives a lot of great information about what the Guardian Ad Litem does. There's also a place there that they could start an application if they choose that they want to be interested. But if they go to that website and they have more questions, again, they can contact the local office and we'd be happy to talk with them.
And you guys are there Monday through Friday.
Yes.
And we do have a voicemail. If we're not there for some reason, they can leave a voicemail and we'll get back to them.
Because I'm
Absolutely.
sure that you guys also have to be in court occasionally
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
Our court days are on Tuesdays, and they occasionally run over into Wednesdays, so Tuesday and Wednesday.
But really this program is about children who are vulnerable, who are not just at risk, but who are court involved.
Correct. Yes.
So anything that we haven't talked about that we should talk about today?
I think maybe just an opportunity to say thank you to our volunteers who are currently with our program. They are an invaluable resource. Many of our volunteers who have come on board have come because of previous volunteers who have recruited them, and so we just can't say thank you enough to them. And certainly if there's anybody listening who's interested, please call our number and we would be happy to give you more information and hopefully get you on your journey to becoming a volunteer.
And as we said when we started, thank you for having
Absolutely.
us, because this is a big part of it too. Just getting the word out there and just the education of the community, because the more people that know about the Guardian Ad Litem program, the more people might have an interest in volunteering for a child.
That's true, and there are more children in this community that fall into your program than a lot of us even think about.
Right, right.
And it is important to reach out and help those children,
Yes.
especially now when, as we were talking before, they're not in school every day, so a teacher's not seeing these children. So it is very important to have that voice. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Caldwell County Today.